Good morning, and thanks for joining us for a workshop on Friday morning here. As many of you guys took advantage of the NinjaTrader promotion, thank you for joining us and for trying out Bloodhound. As most of you know, we just sort of concluded our Trade Like a Pro webinar event, which we were selected out of the 400-something odd partners from NinjaTrader. We were one of the 3 of 400, I think, that were selected to participate in that special program up there. So we're very honored to have completed that. Of course, not to belabor the point in how much we love NinjaTrader, but they are an amazing platform, and they not only is their software absolutely top notch and pretty much the most sophisticated thing out there in terms of being able to, for customizability and for just general power and extensibility, but they tend to support partners like us a great deal. So that helps us with being able to create great products for you guys, and we're very thankful. So without any further ado, just if you're new to this kind of format, that it's a very informal format, and basically, like we mentioned before, it's a workshop. And generally speaking, if you have any questions, you just ask them, and Zach will try to get to them as soon as he can. And otherwise, he's got a little bit of usually some material prepared. It's a little bit of a lesson, which keeps a lot of people coming back time after time to put stuff together. But otherwise, your questions do take priority. And if you do have a mic and you want to actually ask the questions in the room, feel free to do that as well. And in fact, I think I'm going to see if I can show the list here so you guys can also see each other as well. If anybody is opposed to that, just let us know. We'll take that down. But as you can see, it's a very kind of intimate and tight-knit group here. So don't be afraid to get to know each other as well. I mean, you guys have something in common, and that's the use of Bloodhound. So we want to encourage you guys to share ideas and form a bit of a community, because as you know, the product it's got a lot to it, and certainly, if you're building systems for the first time, it sure helps to get in touch with someone else that maybe has been using this for a little bit of time and is able to build things that you're still trying to overcome and trying to learn. So, anyways, I'm going to pass this over to Zach, and like I said, just feel free to open up with any questions if you got any. So, Tony's asking quickly: Is there an exchange that is a forum we can exchange ideas? We don't have an official one. I've been sort of trying to nudge people and encourage them. Hey, there's a big forum out there called Big Mike's Trading. Actually, I'm not sure if it's plural. Zach, do you know? Is it Big Mike's or Big Mike Trading? I think it's Big.
Yeah,
Mike.
It's not plural. It's Mike.
Yeah, and honestly, that amongst maybe Elite Trader, I think, is another one. It's kind of it's not really. It was a bit of a conflict of interest if we were to go in there and sort of create a forum for ourselves. It'd be looked upon as maybe self-promotional, and something that I guess we can't do. But certainly as users, if one of you guys want to take the initiatives to just create a forum there or contact Big Mike and ask if it's okay, I think that would be probably the most ideal thing to do, because we have tried putting together our own forum and whatnot. The problem is when running a forum in itself is a whole endeavor, but also we find that if there isn't a reason to come back constantly, the forum will start to just die. Whereas if we start going to these bigger forums like Big Mike Trading or Elite Trader, which are constantly active, there's always a reason to go there, even if you're not just looking for Bloodhound related material, but if you're looking for just trading advice in general or trading tips. So there's a lot of activity there. So there's a good chance that if someone were to create a a little subforum there or something like that, it would probably stay alive and probably stay active, and that's probably the best way to go about it, I think. So anyways, I'll just kind of put that out there, and like I said, it's that's something I guess the initiative has to sort of start to get to the user group, I think, for that to happen. So anyway, oh yeah, Tony, yeah, you could certainly answer questions on NinjaTrader's own forum. I mean, I've seen people do that. Just be aware that the NinjaTrader guys, the NinjaTrader support people, do look at that forum, and some of them are aware of Bloodhound and how it works, and some of them aren't. And we find that generally what happens when you post stuff up there, they just kind of refer you guys back here. So it's not a really, the NinjaTrader forum is not much of an active forum so much as it's more of a place to ask questions to their support. So it's not a true forum if you want to put it that way, right? I would characterize a true forum is where users are helping each other and contributing with each other. But I noticed most of the time on the NinjaTrader support forum, it's more of a one-on-one dialogue between the support person and the person asking the question, and occasionally you do get some users piping in with some answers and whatnot. But by and large, it's not that kind of forum in terms of people share information to the extent, like say, for Big Mike's training. So it's more, like I said, it's more of a platform to ask questions directly to their support. Okay. All right. Well, let me pass the buck over to Zach here, and let him take it from there.
All right. Good morning, guys. So let me just get my projector switched over. So, and it's a nice spring day, so I have my window open. Hopefully there won't be any sound interruptions from outside. If there is, I'll just close my window. And let's see. All right. My monitor should come up here in just a moment. Okay, can you guys see my monitor? All right, chart is up. Thank you, Randy. Got it. Cool. Okay, thanks, guys. All right. So I've noticed that a number of our customers have been trying to implement the NexGen trigger. I think it's the T3 fib large trigger and small trigger system. I don't know it that well. I'm kind of going off of memory, and I tried to do a little research last night on this. So for those of you who are NexGen students, if I've got this wrong and you want to kind of correct me, that'd be great. I appreciate that. It kind of helped me out here, but this is really more about kind of how to, once again, training in how to build certain conditions. This is not about teaching you guys trade signals at all. So Jeremy and I aren't coaches, and so what we teach here, we're not conveying that you guys should go out and trade this. This is just training material so that you can build your own signals with Bloodhound. So I may get these wrong, but it's okay. It's as long as I kind of get the training material across to you guys and kind of how to build this. So I'm sure I'll probably get it close enough for you guys who are NexGen students to kind of take it and correct it and hopefully make it work for you guys. So so I've got a couple of areas marked here on the charts, and from what I kind of remember is you have these longer period moving averages here, the blue lines, which I believe are called the large triggers, and then you got these smaller shorter time period moving averages called the small triggers. And one of the setups, I believe, was when the small triggers cross above the large triggers, then what you're looking for is one of the wicks to pull back inside of the large triggers, which are the blue moving averages, and then you're good for the trade. So like this would be like a long condition right here, where one of the small trigger lines crossed above the large trigger lines, and you have the close of the bar above. I think it just has to be above the large trigger here, but your low is below at least one of the large triggers. So I think it just has to be below one of them, I believe, and then you're good for a long on the next bar. And so let's see, I think all of these are long signals. So let me get rid of that. I'm going to put a little dot on there marking the long signal. And also I think the setup was only good for for so many bars after the large trigger crosses, or after the short trigger crosses the large trigger. So so we'll build in that limitation as well. So for example, like I don't think you would want to. I don't think this would qualify right here. So I think this pullback in price happened too long after the small triggers crossed the large triggers. So, all right. Let's see, a couple questions coming in here. Yes, Sandy, you guys will be able to watch this later. So up on our let's see, up on let me kind of pull up the website here to show you guys. And let's see, tips and tricks. I'll just pull over the tips and tricks. And so on our website, if you go to Bloodhound, down to Learn Bloodhound, and then in the training workshops, so this will be where you'll be able to watch all of these workshops, which we record every one. And then the most recent list shows right up here. And then if you want to see all of them, you can click on the recorded webinars here. And then down here you'll see the archives by month. So, all right, let me get that out of the way. And so Ken is saying they're linear regression lines. Yeah, I don't know exactly what these moving averages are, and for this training, it doesn't really matter. I kind of got mine. I'm using an HMA, which kind of looked kind of close as I could get to the video I saw. So I don't know exactly what they are. And let's see. Tony's saying the short are the two white lines and the long are the two blue lines. Correct. Yeah, so the short triggers are basically the short period, or the two white lines, which are the shorter period, right, or faster period, and the long triggers are the longer period, the longer period, or the bigger period moving averages. So these are just names that NexGen has coined for their system. All right. Let's see. So Sandy's asking, one of the LTs is a 55 EMA. Let's see. So Sandy, is that a statement or there we go. All right, it's a statement. Okay, so one of these is supposed to be a EMA 55. All right. Well, then let me make that adjustment real quick. So, and there we go, EMA 55. Put that on there, something like that. All right, so maybe it is. So Sandy or Bob, do you guys know what the other period is? Because I know there's two of these lines there, right? I figured once I got this started, some of you guys would be able to pipe in here and kind of tell me what's going on, or tell me what these lines are. Let's see. So, all right. So Tony's wanting to know what the parameters are. You know, I don't want you guys to get too hung up on the parameters because, you know, look, I'm not saying trade this because this is not going to be close. I'm probably not going to teach it correctly. So don't get too hung up on what the moving averages are. You know, there's definitely no holy grail as to any single indicator that'll get you a perfect trading system. So, you know, I just want to get this kind of close enough, but I'll go over and let you guys know what they are. Let's see. So Randy thinks the other one might be a 34 EMA. So let's just set that to 34. So, all right. So you can see here up on my chart what I have up here. So the white lines is an HMA. I have 21 and a 29 period, and then we got Then I just adjusted the two, you know, quote large triggers to EMAs. So 55 and 34. You know, it looks close enough. Good enough. We'll just kind of go with that. So. All right, so after adjusting that, let's see, I need to kind of reevaluate what would be a valid entry as far as I know. Let's see, let me scan through here, and oh, so this one's still, yeah, this one's still good. Get rid of this gun. So once again, just to what the criteria is that I'm going to use is, you know, I want the short period moving averages to cross above the larger period moving averages, and then try and catch a pullback fairly soon. So just for the sake of having another condition met, I'll mark this guy as well. All right, so we'll just go with that. So let me put Bloodhound on here, and all right, let me kind of, there's a bunch more comments coming in here. Let's see. All right. Greg has a comment here. For those of us who have just joined up this week, can you give a little overview of how you suggest we go about in the most efficient way to learn the Bloodhound program? It's kind of overwhelming at first, so you bet, Greg. Thanks for speaking up there. So, yeah, you know, we did have a whole bunch of people join up recently. Let's see. Randy liked the original large triggers better. Sorry, Randy. So, all right, yeah. So let me kind of show you guys new people here. So we put together a web page here. So if we go to the Bloodhound and the pull down, so under Learn, there's this Getting Started page. So as soon as this comes up, so probably most of you have taken a look at the quick start guide. So it just kind of walks you through getting things installed. It shows you the interface real quick. Keep in mind this video is a year old, so we've made a lot of improvements since then. But at least the concepts will be the same. And then the next step here, you know, taking off, is the tutorial videos. Once again, those just kind of walk you through and give you some simple basic tutorials just to get you kind of started and easy into it. And let me open that up on another tab. And so once you get to the tutorial videos, you know, which you're encouraged to just kind of follow along, just kind of mimic what's being shown. And then after the tutorials, then we have the Give Me More section, which will take you further along. So let's go into the tutorials here. So once again, a quick start guide, which is you know, same as this. You don't need to watch it twice. And the Bloodhound interface, once again, this definitely needs to be updated as we keep constantly making improvements to Bloodhound. And then probably something very useful for you guys down here is the logic nodes. So this kind of explains how logic nodes work. And and OR logic nodes are fairly common, but the ratio and the addition logic nodes, you know, we'll explain those for you. And to explain what the green and red buttons are, so the green button, as it says right here, is BH for Bloodhound. So these are the Bloodhound templates, and this tells you right here where to save the Bloodhound templates. All right, so in the NinjaTrader 7 directory, the folder, and then there's another folder inside of that called templates, and then there's a Bloodhound folder inside of that. And then the red button are NinjaTrader's chart templates. So this is a NinjaTrader template, so it goes in the chart folder. All right. So this is the video tutorials. All right, and so the next, if I go back to the Getting Started page, right, the next step down here in the Give Me More, this button will take you over to the in-depth videos here. And so these are workshops that I did a while back where I went through each solver one at a time and kind of explained them. So these are videos on each of the solvers, and then that's it. Yeah, this will take you into the tips and tricks section. So let me open that up and let that load up, because there is a good video in there of interest for you guys. And then here is a workshop I did where I just built a very quick system just to take you through the whole process of starting from scratch, building a quick system, and then implementing it as an automated trading system into Raven. So I go from scratch and then implement it into Raven. So, and hold on a minute, guys. There's sirens in the background and the dogs in the neighborhood are howling. So there. All right. Got the window closed. And then this video down here is specifically on Raven. So, all right. So let me kind of show you the tips and tricks section here. So it's opened up on this tab. I just added one. I just processed it. I actually did it back in January, but it just added it now. So this here, as the title says, I'm using the time solver to put all your positions flat at the end of the trading day, or whatever, whenever you want your system to stop trading. That's what this tips and tricks video will teach you how to do. And then probably the most common video here is how to analyze your custom indicators. So I grabbed a bunch of indicators from Big Mike's. I believe they're all in the non-elite section, so you should be able to get to all of them. And some of them have plots that Bloodhound can read, and some of them don't. And I just kind of walk through how you can figure out if if Bloodhound's able to work with your custom indicator. So, and then let's see, another good tips and tricks is the ADX. So with the ADX, you know that it tells you that when you're in a trend. And so the ADX, just to give an example, when you're in a trend, the ADX always rises when it believes that you're in a trend. So even if you're in a downtrend, the ADX will rise, right? Most indicators will slope down when you're in a downtrend and then slope up. Well, the ADX always rises in either trend direction. So this video shows you how to use, an oddball indicator like that to detect when you're in a trend, and so how do you use an indicator that rises when price falls, because it's kind of counterintuitive. Bloodhound is typically is all set up so that when your indicator falls, it's usually indicative of price falling. And so that's how the solvers are set up. And so this video will show you kind of how to reverse that process. So basically, just kind of recap, to get to the Getting Started page, let's go to Bloodhound, down to Learn Bloodhound, and Getting Started. So, all right. So, all right, Greg, I hope that takes care of your question. And also, Greg, just to kind of reiterate, or I didn't actually cover this, but I'm here to help you guys get going as well. The one thing I do ask that you do is to at least go through the video tutorial section here before you use the before you book an appointment with me. Right. So if I go to support and on the contact us page, let me open that off to the side here. So on the contact us page, most of you guys know already, so this is the best place to ask your questions. That's exactly what this is for. It'll open up a support ticket that both Jeremy and I will see and can answer. And then right here is the book an appointment button. So if you're kind of stumped and you need some help kind of getting going, that's what I'm here for. And so once you've kind of at least covered the video tutorial section, which if you just want to go straight there, You have the video tutorials here, the tips and tricks, and then the workshops. And then, of course, the documentation. So if you're into the documentation, if you're on any of these pages here, you'll see the documentation is actually right here on this side menu. So right here under Bloodhound reference, here is the documentation for the confidence solvers. Right, all the solvers are here. Right, the logic nodes, the function nodes. So, and then there's pages here for working with multiple time frames, and the how Bloodhound works kind of explains the concept of how Bloodhound works. So there's plenty of documentation up here. So, all right, I think I covered it for you guys. All right, let me check the questions here again. All right. Thanks, Bob, for your comment on the triggers. Yes, Ken. So Sandra had asked earlier on this. This is going to be recorded, and it's going to be up in the workshop, the training workshop section of our website. And all right, so a bunch of questions have come in here. So Brian, yeah, Brian, I did take a quick look at your template file that you sent me, and you know, I don't see any issues with it. It all looks correct, and I'm going to try and cover that towards the end of this. Just take a quick look at that at the end of this workshop, because I didn't see any issues. What you had set up, it all looked correct. I didn't see any of the signals, the long or short signals, being skewed. So I think it might just be a misunderstanding. So I'll cover that towards the end. Let's see. All right. Yeah, Greg, I'd appreciate it if you could go through as many videos as you can. That way, you know, the more experience you have with Bloodhound, right, when we do actually meet with a one-on-one appointment, you know, the information that are training together will just, you know, stick more because you'll just be that more familiar with Bloodhound. So it'll make more sense to you, and you know, your mind will just be able to hold on to it better. Let's see. So Bob is saying the large triggers are a combo of 80 period linear regression and a 20 period EMA smoothing of the linear regression. Oh, okay. Interesting. Thanks, Bob. So Tony's asking, I'm interested in knowing how Bloodhound get access to third-party indicators, or is it regular Ninja? Let's see. I'm interested in knowing how Bloodhound, I guess, gets access to third-party indicators. Well, we're using, you know, NinjaTrader has a standard, you know, plotting method. You know, so this is all programming jargon. So as long as your third-party indicator uses NinjaTrader's standardized indicator plotting methods, then Bloodhound will have no trouble reading it. And there's also some other ways that Bloodhound can read indicator data as well that doesn't show up on the chart, but it's just data that one indicator can pass to another indicator behind the scenes that you don't actually see anything. So that's kind of a simplified technical answer. But a lot of third-party developers, such as trading coaches, kind of like to hide their indicators information, it's intentionally, so that you can't back engineer their indicators. So that's why some third parties work and some don't. So, all right. So Dan, you're asking, how about divergence? Well, how about that divergence? Could you kind of elaborate what you mean, Dan? And I'll look back here in just a moment to try and see what I'll look back and see what you're asking about divergence. So, all right. So let's kind of let me get started, kind of working through building this system here. So there's several conditions. I'm going to start off first by building the condition where we're checking price. Excuse me, I'm losing my losing my voice here. So I'm going to check price to make sure that price is where it should be in comparison to the large triggers. So I kind of know in general that we're looking for, like for a long condition, we're looking for the low to be below one of these large triggers, and the bar direction, has to be in the long direction, and the close has to be above the large trigger. Excuse me, now I got hiccups. So let's build those conditions. So there's several conditions within this. So we have to compare the low to both of the triggers, and then we have to compare the closing price to both of the triggers, and then we'll go back and do the comparison of the the short period moving averages to the longer period moving averages. All right, so let's see. I'm gonna slide this over here. So I like to work, for those of you new, I kind of like to work like this. I'll have my chart on one side of the screen and then have the Bloodhound interface on the other side of the screen. That way I can just flip back and forth pretty quickly here. All right, so the first thing I need to do is name my template. So I'm just going to scroll down here and take a shortcut and just grab one of these here and and just change the date. So 4/12. All right, save that. So, all right, so now that I have a name saved here, every time the Bloodhound interface closes, Bloodhound always saves your work. So whenever you hit the red X, you'll see that there's no there's no OK button or cancel button, and that is because Bloodhound always saves your template whenever it gets closed. So if you hit the red X and close the interface, your work is always saved. Or if you do something on the chart, and say like you go in here and you fiddle around with your indicator, change that and hit OK, right? The chart has to refresh and it closes the Bloodhound interface. So when the chart closed the Bloodhound interface, Bloodhound saved the template file as well before it closed. So that way your work is always being saved. So just be aware of that. So if you have so let's say you've got a good system, kind of like a core set of conditions set up. You kind of have the general basics of your system, or you have a system working and perfectly the way you like it. Always make a copy of it if you want to start testing some changes with it. Just remember, don't work with your template. Don't work with your Bloodhound system that's already working the way you like it. If you go around and play around in it, every time you close that interface, it's going to save, and it's going to undo your work if you have it working properly, perfectly the way you like it. So just always remember, use the change button, and rename it so that you're working with a copy of the one, of the template file that's working for you. So, right. Let's see. I see a couple more comments coming in here. So Hans is asking, is the Raven code available anywhere? No, Raven, the code is not open, but you can get code that's very close to Raven. So if you go to Bloodhound and go to the documentation right here, and you'll have this side menu come up. You can go down and you'll see down here at the bottom is Raven. And so if you want to build a custom strategy using Bloodhound, then there's two example codes here. There's some example code. You can download it, and it also, let's see, let me open this up over there. So you can download it, and so if you already have a strategy that you're using, say like some people have a custom strategy put together that they can use to kind of control their stops and whatnot, then this code right here is to help you implement Bloodhound into any kind of existing custom strategy that you may have coded up, right? So this is here to kind of show you how to implement Bloodhound and initiate Bloodhound into your own custom strategy, right? So let's see. Oh, so Dan's asking, how do I do divergence with Bloodhound? So Dan, if you look in the let's see, the workshop section here. If you go to workshops, I did a divergence webinar a few weeks back. Let's see, there we go, divergence. So it's right there. So you can watch that. I built a simple divergence using the stochastics. And so if you watch that video, I'm probably going to come back to this and do a divergence on the MACD. So as you know, the stochastics oscillates above the zero line. So I kind of wanted to go back and do another one on an indicator like the MACD that oscillates above and below the zero line. So Dan, there you go. You can check this out, and there's a template file that you can download with it. All right. Let's see. There, I'm just kind of clearing out my questions here before I get going. Let's see. All right. Onward and upward. So let's see. I think the first one condition I'm going to tackle here is looking at the low and checking when the low price is below is below one of the, or below, either one of the larger moving averages or the large triggers here. And you have to check to see if they're below both of them, because I know in some instances you may have, you may not know which one is above the other. So let me change the color on one of these here. I'll make one a little bit lighter. How about tomato? So sometimes you'll, see how the shorter period, the lighter red is below, and so sometimes it's still below here, and if one of these wicks had pulled back into it, from my understanding, that would have been valid for a long condition. So sometimes the shorter period is below the slightly larger period, so you have to check against both moving averages. At least how I'm going to explain it. So that may not be technically correct. So, all right. So let me get my interface back up. So what I'm going to have to start building is a bunch of comparison solvers. So for those of you who I've met with, usually I always explain that I like to work on the solver tab for as long as possible. And I'll kind of show you why here. So let me add that on there. I'll add a couple on there. So let's see, this one is going to be the, well actually I'm going to do two conditions. Let's see, two large trigger, I guess one, for lack of a better name. So I'm going to compare the high and the low price to the large trigger one. And so the tomato colored one will be the large trigger one because it's slightly shorter period than this one, and I'll call this the large trigger 2. And so with this one comparison solver, I'm going to check for the low being below the large trigger, and also check for the high, so this high being above the large trigger for a short, or for a short output. So I can take care of both of these conditions with one solver here. So that's why I need to put the high and the low. That's why I put the high and the low in the name. Oh. All right, so let's see. Okay, so we can see both of these situations here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the most active or kind of like the primary indicator or data that we're analyzing, and in this case it's price. So the primary data that we're analyzing is price. We're checking to see where price is in relationship to our moving average. So indicator A section is going to be price. So the way you can get price data is from our indicator SI Chameleon. And so you can see you have all the price data available to you, the high, the low, the mid, and right, the open, close, and typical, and also, so we have the typical, the weighted, and the median. So if you're wanting to know what the formulas are for these three prices here, that's available in NinjaTrader's help documentation. So this is something that's calculated by NinjaTrader, and it's available to you if you code your own custom indicators. These prices are available. So the formula is in their help documentation. All right. So we have a long column and a short column, and so when I'm looking at the low price, I'm checking the low price for long situations, for long conditions. So for the lows, I need to use that for looking at longs. And then I'm looking at the high price for short situations. So that one's set up correctly. And then indicator B is going to be our triggers here. All right, so let's see, the smaller one was a 34 EMA, and actually I'm going to delete this guy, just use this one, and so you can see right now, you know, these outputs don't look correct, because right when the low is below, there's no output, and that's when we want a long. But as soon as the lows go above the moving average, we're getting longs. That's because the default outputs aren't set up correctly. So we actually want A. So indicator A is our price, the low price. So when the low price is below the moving average or less than the moving average, that's when we want a long condition. So we actually want A to be less than B. So this is what we want to use. All right, so remember A represents the low price, and B, indicator B, represents our large trigger. And so now you can see we have longs in the right place here. And as soon as the low, you know, as soon as the price bar dips below the tomato colored moving average, right, we're getting our long conditions here. So, all right, and we need to reverse the shorts as well. So typically, when you're doing something like this, if you have to change, you know, the default settings on the long, then you also have to reverse it on the shorts. So I'll just set that to 1, turn the outputs off here, and there we go. And we can see when the high, right, when the high of these 3 bars is above the moving average, and we have 3 long outputs there. All right. And so as we start building all these conditions and stuff, you know, these long signals will go away, that are in the wrong spot, and these short signals will go away as we start building more and more conditions. So the next thing I need to do is I need to do the same comparison, but now to the EMA 55, or the red line. So I'm going to copy this guy and change the name. So the large trigger 2, change this, and change that to 55. And let me turn the other solver off. And let's see. Yep, this looks right. So oh, all right. I modified the upper one. Okay. There we go. So the low is below the EMA 55, and we have a one long output there. And we can see as soon as the lows break below the EMA 55, there we go. We have all these long outputs. So great. I'm going to turn both of them off. And let's see. Okay, so next, I need to make sure that the closing price is above both of these EMAs. So let's copy this guy down, and I'm going to take a shortcut here. I could use SI Chameleon to get the closing price, but there's a little shortcut here, and I'm just going to use the closing price there and compare it to the EMA 55. And now this time the closing price is above or greater than our EMAs, our large triggers, so it's greater than. Right, so we can see that on this bar we have a short, right? We don't have a long output from the solver, so the outputs are backwards, right? As soon as the closing price went below the EMA 34, right, we got this long output when it went below, and that's because in this situation our outputs are backwards. So let's put these back to the kind of normal default location. There we go. So perfect. Closing price is above the EMA, and we have long outputs. All right, so the next step is I will copy this guy down, rename it, change my period. Let me turn the other solver off, and we'll just look at this one. And yeah, so right here the closing price is still above the EMA 55. We have a long, and as soon as it closes below, there we go. We get a short output. So, all right. So let me kind of get back to why I like working on the solver tab. So as you probably have caught on, I can turn my solvers on individually, and I can turn them all on. And although it's not going to give me, if I turn all of them on, it's not going to give me the right output, right? Because the low price has to be just below either one of the large triggers. Let's see. Looking to see if I have a good example, and unfortunately I don't. But if I have them all turned on, what it's going to do is it's going to require the low to be below both large triggers, which would be incorrect. But in this case, it just so happens to work out that way. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to use an OR node to see if the low is below, large trigger 1 or large trigger 2. So now I will, typically I like to, go as far as I can, putting all of my solvers on here before I create a logic template. But I just want to show you what happens, if you start building a logic template. How do you get around being able to look at your solvers individually to make sure that they're doing what you want them to do, to make sure they're set up correctly for you. So let me turn them all off just to exaggerate my example here. So I'm going to make a new logic template, and so now you can see as soon as I created a new logic template, the output disappeared. And so no matter what I do on the solver tab, it has no effect on the output anymore. So I don't have that convenience of being able to just kind of turn on and off solvers, one at a time to, as I'm building them. I don't have that convenience. So now what I'd have to do is I'll have to drop each solver down here. I see Dan popped in late, so Dan was asking if you missed any. So anybody else that might have popped in a little late, Dan was asking if you missed any announcements, and no, Dan, no real announcements. No. Now some of you veterans here probably already noticed, but I don't have the naming convention correct on these two solvers down here that are using the closing price. So see, this guy's using the closing price, so let me go in and rename this. There. All right, so next thing, let me drop an OR node down here. And so what this does now is, right, these two solvers are comparing the low to both of the large triggers, and so when the low is below either one of them, then we'll get a long out here. See, so even on this bar, when the low is below large trigger 1, right, we have a long output. And of course, when it's below the large trigger 2, we have a long output. And I need to do the same thing here. So actually, no, you know what? I think actually this condition is different. I think the closing price has to be above both of the large triggers, I believe. Yeah, the closing price needs to be above both of them. So that's going to require an AND logic. So another way of saying it, verbally, is the close has to be above large trigger 1, and it has to be above large trigger 2. So we'll take a look at that. So here we can see where the close dipped below the large trigger 1, all right, and there's no output. No. And right here, the closing price is in between the two large triggers, and so there's no output. So essentially, using the AND node, you can see that whenever the closing price is between the two large triggers, there's no output. So, and now our conditions requires both of these. The kind of completed signal requires both of these conditions to be in agreement, right? So we have to have our low below either one of the moving averages and the close above both of them. And so if both of those conditions are required, once again, we'll need an AND node. Oops. So if you have a bunch of solvers selected like this, you got to remember to click off to the side before you start connecting your leaders. There. Connect that in, and let's see what we're left with. All right. So it's good. This guy's marked long, but we can see that we have 3 long outputs here, right? But the small triggers haven't crossed above yet. And so we want to filter these guys out. So we haven't worked on this set of conditions yet. So we need I'll build this 2 different ways because I'm not exactly clear on what exactly the conditions are. So I'm just going to build it first, just requiring one of the short triggers to be above both. So I'm going to require that one of the short triggers be above both of the large triggers. So in other words, this guy right here, so the short trigger on this bar is when it's above both of the large triggers. So this bar would be the first bar that would qualify for the long condition. And then let's see, over here we have to wait for one of these short triggers to be below both of them, and I'm guessing it's probably going to be this bar. Let's see. Yeah, I think it's going to be this bar here that I marked. Will be the first bar that qualifies for taking a short. So, all right, so let's start building this set of conditions, and then we'll connect it in to what we have so far. So once again, let's see. There's 2 ways of doing this. We can keep using comparison solvers, or we can use, in this particular case, we can use a crossover signal. And the reason why we can use a crossover signal is because we need the setup to occur within a certain period of time or a certain number of bars after the short triggers cross the large triggers. We don't want to wait forever for this to happen. Usually when all your setups happen, you want the final condition to kind of take place relatively short afterwards, instead of allowing price to kind of get away from you and then pull back and then kind of flounder around. So in this situation, so I'm going to go with the crossovers, and I can use the crossover signal to kind of limit how many bars after the crossover occurs that that a valid long setup can happen. So since I'm working on the logic template now, I might as well just stay here. And I'll drop a crossover down here. I'm going to plug it in. And so let's see, I'm going to plug in, I guess I'll call this the short trigger 1, and plug in the large trigger 1. Yeah. All right, so let's see, it's HMA 21. All right. All right, HMA 21, the default. And we need an EMA 34 here. There we go. And so if I use the look back period, essentially, effectively what that does is it kind of extends the crossover signals out further into the future. So if I set this to 7, it's going to extend it out 7 bars. Right, like that. So effectively what that's doing is, with the crossover signal extended out 7 bars, that would allow our other conditions to occur within this 7-bar range. And clearly we can see this, this wick pullback obviously happened within that 7 bars. So, I don't know what a good setting is for this, so I'll just call it 7. Call it good. So the next thing is I should rename this. So this is the short trigger 1 to the large trigger 1 crossover. All right, so I just, let's see. So I'm going to just pop over to the solver tab and make a copy of this. And let's see, I will compare it to, let's see, the large trigger 2. Change the period. So now it's comparing to the large trigger 2. And then I will, let's see, I'll just copy this one here. This is going to be the short period 2 to large trigger 1. So that means I need to change my period to, let's see, I believe it's 29. Yep, 29. There, 29. And I'll make a copy of that one. Update the name. Change the period to match. All right, now I'll just drop them on the logic board. Okay, so now we have to kind of do some more thinking and evaluation of how to join all these crossovers together. So to kind of think this out loud, so we need to make sure that the short trigger 1 is above both of the large triggers, but we don't know which large trigger is going to be above, is going to be the higher one. Sometimes they're flipped. So as an example, right, so like right here, if we did get a pullback, right, the large trigger 1 was actually below it. So we needed to make sure that our short trigger 1 was actually above the large trigger 2. So let's see, how do we want to do this? I'm thinking I'm just going to, let's see, I'm just going to join them together with an AND node for now. So there's a couple of ways we could do this. I think we could also, the simpler version is just to join the two crossover solvers together with an AND node. So that way, right, when the short trigger 1 is above the highest large trigger, basically it's going to have completed two crossovers. That would be the easier way. Let's see, a more complicated way would probably be to compare, which large trigger is above the other one, but that's probably not necessary. So I'll just leave it on here for now. All right. So that means, let's see. Yeah, these are both short trigger 1 and short trigger 1. All right. Let's join them together with an AND node and see what we get. There. All right, now the crossover signals don't occur until the short trigger crosses both of them. And same on the downside here. And all right, so there's both of the situations we're working with here. And let's see, let's do let's do the same thing for the short trigger 2. And right, there we go. So we're getting our short crossovers, right? As soon as the short trigger 2 crosses below both or crosses above both large triggers. All right. And then so the next step would be to OR them together. Oops. Okay, as I explained earlier, we got to remember that when you have a bunch of nodes selected, before you can move something else, just you need to kind of click off somewhere in a blank area, and there you go. Unselect them. Plug that in there. Plug that in there. All right. And so there we go. There we have it. So our crossover signal, you can see it starts at the very first short trigger crossing both of the large triggers. So if we look back here, and yeah, there we go. So short trigger 1 crossed above large trigger 2. And so we have our crossover condition met. All right, and now I think the next step, oh, you know what, here, I think, let's see. Yeah, it looks like here's a, I think this is a short setup that I overlooked. There, all right. We'll go take a look at that in just a moment after we finish connecting these all up. And so now, so I kind of have two sets of conditions, right? So I have this set up here, and this set down here. So let me let's see. These are kind of like the let's see, what do we call this? This is kind of like the price. Let's see, what's a good name for this? The price criteria. I'll just kind of give it a short name. I try to use as short names as possible. And this is going to be the let's see, the short trigger. Let's see, the short trigger to the large trigger crossover. And we need both sets of conditions to happen to be in agreement. So we'll join them together with an AND node. And let's take a look. And interesting. I think, yeah, I think this is pretty close to the original setups as taught by NexGen. There's definitely other filters and stuff that they are included, but this is kind of like the core, the core signal, kind of as I remember it. So, he also uses this BBMACD to kind of filter stuff out as well. So let's see, let's take a look. All right, yeah, so this makes sense. This first one showed up. But this one here occurred too long after, so that's why it didn't get marked. And let's see, what else do we have? Yeah, there we go. This one guy here showed up. Let's see, what else do we have? There we go, longs and shorts. So there's definitely, I know there's some resistance lines as well that they use. You know, some Fibonacci indicator that they use, I believe, that generates support and resistance lines to kind of help filter out your trades as well. So in general, that's basically kind of it. So let me go through the questions, and I'll just address some questions from here. Let's see. Let's see. So Bob is saying the large triggers are combo. Oh, I think I already read that one. Okay. There we go. There's Dan's. All right. And let's see. Jeff's got a pretty long question here. All right, so Jeff is asking if you wanted to change the period of one of the fundamental MAs you're comparing to, you would have to go and change that period in each of the solvers. That's correct, Jeff. Yes, it appears in. So yes, you'd have to change the period in each of the solvers it appears in. Is there a way to set up a variable equal to the SMA period? No, Jeff, not currently, but there may be in the future. And so let me finish reading the rest of your question. I'll kind of expand upon that. Let's see. Let me start at the beginning. Okay, is there a way to set up a variable equal to the SMA period, then use your variable in your solver? Then you would only have to place, well, Jeff, to put it kind of bluntly, isn't Bloodhound fast enough already as compared to coding? But you know, that is possibly something that will be available in the future. Because, you know, a common question that we get asked a lot is when you're using Bloodhound in the strategy analyzer, some of you may know that the strategy analyzer has an optimizer. Let's see, oh shoot. I'm not running my VMware today because I couldn't get the network working on my VMware. So, so let's see, I can't pull the strategy analyzer up, but so the strategy analyzer has a way to analyze your indicator periods, or optimize your indicator periods. Right? It has an optimization period, an optimization process. And currently, Bloodhound doesn't expose the periods that you're using to the strategy analyzer. But Jeremy, has some ideas of how to work around that and how to get the strategy analyzer to see your indicator periods or settings. And so when we get around to that, there's probably a good chance that we could do what you're asking, Jeff, which is kind of like define a variable, which would be basically a variable of just a number, and then you could assign that variable into your indicator. So if you change the variable, right, it'll change the period in all of your solvers that would have this EMA 34. So you could just change that variable in one spot and your periods would update everywhere. So that's on the drawing board. There's no ETA. That's honestly, it doesn't have there's much bigger fish that we need to fry first before we kind of get to that convenience. that's seen more as a convenience, not actually kind of a critical requirement. So there's still some more things that we want to add that are more critical to building a system. So those are going to have a higher priority. So, like for example, Jeremy and I were discussing a new solver that's on the drawing board, and hopefully we'll get this out fairly soon. And just to kind of give you an example here, all right. So what this solver is going to do is, you see the two gray lines, which are the upper and lower bands. I believe it's the Bollinger Bands. So these are BB MACDs, Bollinger Bands applied to the MACD. So when the Bollinger Bands, when they converge, when they're converging or coming closer and closer together, right? It doesn't matter if they're both pointed down or if they're both pointed up, but when the distance between the two, or the delta between the two, is getting smaller and smaller, so when the distance is getting smaller and smaller, this solver will detect that and give you, an output, whatever kind of output you're wanting, whether it be long or short. And then when the two bands are diverging or separating from each other, you can detect that as well and get whatever kind of signal you want out of that. So this would be kind of a convergence, divergence solver, detecting when two data series. So I'm just using these Bollinger Bands as an example, but you could obviously compare two different moving averages, or any kind of data set. So you could compare when price is pulling away from your moving average, right? Or you could even compare the price of one instrument to the price of another instrument, because those are data sets as well. So that's a new solver that we added to the drawing board. So things like that for building a system kind of have a higher priority versus that variable idea. That's a very nice idea. I truly believe in making software as convenient as possible. To me, that's kind of the whole purpose of a computer. So it's on the drawing board. All right. All right, let me get through some more. Here, let's see. So let's see. William is asking, is there a way to see the source code that Bloodhound is using to obtain the results? Absolutely not. If we gave away our source code, then who would buy the product? Why not just be the same as putting it up for free on Big Mics? So if you're asking about the code for the Bloodhound template, then yes, you can see that. It's not going to make any sense to you, but it's plain text. So let's see. To show you what it looks like, I will open up today's file. Yeah. So as you know, the Bloodhound template files are in NinjaTrader 7 templates Bloodhound folder, right? So there's today's template file, and here is what it looks like. It's not in a programming language, so it's not usable in NinjaTrader. It's just an XML document. So it is available. You can look at it if you want to. It's kind of hard to read. So let's see. So let's see. Tony is asking, is NexGen a course or is it an indicator? It's a trading methodology, so it's a course that we're teaching new traders how to trade, and like a lot of coaches, they have their own indicator packages. So it's both. It's so they have their own indicators and they have their own course. And I kind of brought this up. Jeremy had talked to John Novak, who's the CEO of NexGen, and we asked John if he'd be interested in doing hosting a webinar together, and he said, "Great, sounds good." So yeah, and this all kind of came about because I've already worked with a couple of students on building, this set of conditions here that I just showed you today. So I'm going to have to get better acquainted with NexGen's system, and we're going to do a webinar together. So let's see. Let me find the next question here. Let's see. So William's saying, in other words, can we see the C# code that is accessing the variable data series arrays? So I think I answered your question there, William. It's not in C#. It's in XML format. So yeah, Bloodhound doesn't put together a C# thing like NinjaTrader's strategy. What is it called? The strategy wizard. Yeah. So it would be I don't know, maybe sometime in the future we can get there, but that would definitely be a huge project to convert all this into C#. Let's see. So Greg's saying a little off subject, but on the Ninja chart, how do you create the drawing tools toolbar? So this is a download from Big Mice. So if you go into your indicators, it is this toolbar shortcut up on Big Mice. So I love it. I highly recommend it. And normally I turn these off because I just want the little drawing tools to kind of speed things up. So normally that's how I run it. So all right. Let's see, Ted. Do some of the solvers take longer to evaluate in real time than others? Probably in processor units, that's definitely correct, but in an actual time that that a person could distinguish, no, I would say not. I don't, unless you have a really old computer. If you have something fairly new, I would recommend at least a quad core 3 gigahertz machine, or at least as close to 3 gigahertz quad core as you can. I kind of feel that 4 gigs is typically enough. NinjaTrader, when they came out with version 7, NinjaTrader, they did an awesome job of handling the amount of RAM that it needs. So it needs a lot less RAM than NinjaTrader 6.5 did. So typically, 4 is plenty for NinjaTrader, but if you put in more than that, that will help Windows run faster. It won't really. it won't directly help NinjaTrader run faster because it won't need that extra RAM, but Windows will run faster because it'll have more RAM to cache into instead of using your hard drive. All right, so let me finish reading the rest of your question there, Ted. Let's see, to evaluate. So let me start this. Read your question from the beginning again. Do some of the solvers take longer to evaluate in real time than others? I noticed the slope inflection takes longer to evaluate in real time versus backtesting over the same data. The back-tested results show more winning trades compared to more losers when done in live sim data feed. Yeah, Ted, so that you're now beginning to experience the differences of back-tested data versus live data. You know, there's a couple of good recorded webinars up on Big Mike's forum. Who is it? I believe it's from Futures Trader 71. This guy who's built quite a number of automated trading systems, and he kind of did a couple of webinars where he discusses his methodology, and you know, and he discusses the complications that come about when you backtest your system versus running it forward in live testing mode. So that's not you know, it's not an issue with anybody's strategy or anybody's indicators. It's just an issue in dealing with static price versus dealing with live price that's always moving. You know, I guess to the beginner you would think, well, they have to be one and the same, but they aren't. Yeah. So, Ted, I think that's probably about as best I can answer your question for now. So if you want kind of a better explanation, you do have to be an elite member on Big Mike's in order to watch the recorded webinars there. So. Let's see, so GW is asking, is the BB MACD indicator available on Big Mike's? Yes, it is. Yep. Just about everything I have is available on Big Mike's. I might have a couple of indicators that you might see that came from NexGen and some other coaches that you know, we're looking into partnering with, but for the most part, everything's available on Big Mike's. Let's see. So Tony's saying, I am taking a Ninja scripting class. Good. I highly recommend that. How does a script developer utilize what Bloodhound does? I remember Jeremy said you can extend Bloodhound. I think you meant to say extend Bloodhound results to a script. So yes, Tony, I'll just show you real quick because I showed this at the beginning of the workshop this morning. Let's see, where was it? I'll open this up. So if you go to the documentation page here, then what you'll see is you'll get this side menu here, and you see all the way at the bottom there is example codes here of how to instantiate Bloodhound into your strategy or even into another indicator if you wish. So let me open that. So anyways, there's 2 pages here that give you example code. If you click on the custom Bloodhound strategy, it gives you, a thorough explanation of the, what are they called, the classes, I believe, that Jeremy made, if I'm saying that right. I may be using the wrong terminology. But you'll see there's example codes here and an explanation of what has to be done. And then it shows you how to implement Bloodhound into your strategy. Oop. Okay, here's the example code. So take a look at that. Let's see, who was that? Tony. Okay. John is asking, can you just push a button and have it converted? John, I guess you're asking about converting an XML document into C# script, and that would be no. No, we don't have a way to convert Bloodhound's template file into C#. All right, thanks, Randy, and have a good weekend as well. Okay, Tony, this may be a Ninja. Let's see. Oh, I already read that one. And let's see. So Ted's got a 12-core machine now. 12 cores, I didn't think that was possible. Well, that's pretty cool. So hopefully the next step would be to get some solid-state hard drives. But you probably already do. So that's going to be my next purchase, is some solid-state hard drives. That's probably the best improvement to make to your computer, would be to put a solid-state hard drive in and have NinjaTrader run off of that solid-state hard drive. I incidentally came across a great posting on Big Mike's where a guy explained how to reinstall your NinjaTrader onto a solid-state hard drive if you purchase one, and it'll probably speed NinjaTrader's load time probably by a factor of 5, 5 or 10-fold maybe even. All right. Greg is asking, market replay data in Ninja will generally overcome the problem with backtesting data results, FYI. Yes, good comment there, Greg. Yeah, so let's see, who was it? Who was it? Let's see. I think shoot, I think I might have deleted that question by accident. But anyways, yeah. If you in lieu of forward testing on live data, yeah, you could use the market replay data, and that's I think it's close enough to live market data to where you should get close to live market data results. Let's see, all right. So William is saying, I'm a new member, and this kind of session support is fantastic. Oh, good. Thanks, William. Yep, that's what this is for. We realize, like anything new, there's a learning curve. I mean, imagine if it was your first time ever seeing Microsoft Office, with that ribbon bar on top and everything. It would be really overwhelming at first, but once you get used to it, you just kind of ease right into it, and then and it doesn't feel so daunting anymore. So that's what these workshops are for. And so Tony got his SSD last weekend. Nice. I'm watching those Newegg sales, and as soon as I find a good sale, I'm going to purchase myself one. All right. Okay. Well, I think I got through all the questions, guys. So it is 12:20, and I definitely, absolutely have to wrap this up. And I'm sorry, Brian, I didn't get to your question here. Well, okay. Let me get to it real quick. Let's see. So, Brian, I believe, okay, there's your short. Okay, so here is your, I think this is for both. So I noticed that your longs, you never really get a signal on your longs. You got one there. And so let's see, you're at about 0.64 on your longs. So let's evaluate your longs there. And see, it's 0.64. It's still 0.64, and you only got this one long signal triggered. And for the, let's go back to both of them. And so you can see for the shorts, you know, you get a lot of short signals here and two missing, two outputs that didn't quite make a signal. If I just look at your shorts only, you know, that matches up. So what Brian did is Brian used the long short modifier to turn off the long side and leave the short side on only. So Brian, you know, I think the issue is not with the long short modifier, but your issue is just that you know, I think your conditions set up in here are just something in there is not quite right. So Brian, since you're kind of stuck on this, I see you made a great attempt to kind of get it going. So you know, that's all I ask, that you guys at least make an attempt. And when you get stuck on something, make an appointment with me, and we'll go through this. Or Brian, if you want to kind of send me a little explanation of what you're doing, so I understand what's going on here. I haven't really looked at it, but if you send me an explanation of what you're trying to accomplish, then I can probably figure out, you know, what needs to be adjusted in your solvers to kind of get this working for you. So, all right, I'm just going to leave it at that. So, all right, guys, you have a good weekend, and we'll see you next Friday.